December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
On December 7th, 1941, Japan forces attacked a U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
We didn't even know where Pearl Harbor was at that time. All we could understand was Japan bombing Pearl Harbor, and we said, well, where's Pearl Harbor? My parents didn't even know.
America immediately entered the war against Japan, Germany, and Italy.
My mother and dad were really shaken. It was a disbelief. We really couldn't believe that that was going on.
At that time, nearly 117,000 persons of Japanese heritage lived on the west coast of the United States. 2/3 of them were American citizens. The attack on Pearl Harbor was their worst nightmare.
We just assumed that we were great Americans, and never did it occur to us that we would ever be considered anything but an American.
I think the whole Japanese-American community sensed that people thought we were disloyal and that we were involved in this attack on Pearl Harbor.
After Pearl Harbor, widespread fear and racism escalated against the Japanese-American community. Many thought they posed a security threat to the country. Most questioned their loyalty.
One of the more quoted quips was, "A Jap is a Jap," which meant that one's loyalty can be determined by blood rather than one's life experience. So because they had Japanese blood, they cannot be trusted to be loyal to the United States in a time of war.
When I went back to school that following morning, December 8th, one of the teachers said, "You people bombed Pearl Harbor," and I'm going, "My people?" All of a sudden, my Japanese-ness became very aware to me. I no longer felt I'm an equal American.
Japanese nationals were now considered enemy aliens. A curfew was implemented, and their bank assets were frozen. They were required to register and get fingerprinted.
When the war broke out, that was one of the darkest times of our lives. We had to go to the police station and have our fingerprints taken.
We went downtown and went to the FBI office, and they were interviewed. I recall that just absolutely terrified that they would never come out of that office.
The FBI rounded up hundreds of first-generation Issei leaders and sent them to prison.
On February 4th, they did a mass raid on Bainbridge Island. They hit all 50 Japanese American homes simultaneously so that no one would be tipped off that the FBI was on the island. And they came without search warrants, went through all of the homes, took whatever they wanted, and they arrested a lot of our elders in our community.
When we came home from school, my mom was crying and says, "No more Papa, he got taken away." And she said, "I don't know what's going to happen. I think they're going to all line us up and shoot us."
On February 19, 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. The order gave the military the authority for the mass removal and incarceration of all people of Japanese heritage living on the West Coast, whether they were American citizens or not. Nearly 117,000 people were forced to leave their homes. Most were women and children.
You only could take one little suitcase with you, only what you could carry.
The Japanese Americans were given only 6 days to pack, sell, or store their belongings. They could only take what they could carry. No one knew where they were going.
They were making a lot of dramatic choices, how to take care of their properties, who's going to look after it if they had someone to look after it. There were fire sales on their goods.
We had such short notice. We just left the farm just as it was. I think the seed and everything was in the ground.
Under armed guards, the Japanese Americans were loaded onto trains. The blinds were lowered. Families were destined to who knew where.
As we pulled out, I can remember my father, and looking at his face, I could just feel that he was saying goodbye to the place that he had known so well.
Eventually, they were moved to 10 newly built incarceration camps.
We were sent to prison in the literal sense. We were held there without a trial. We were held there against our will. They had barbed wires. There was prison guards. If that's not a prison, I don't know what the term is.
I stayed until the last person got into the compound and heard the gate clang behind me. And I think when people ask what my memory was, I always remember the sound of the gate clanging behind you. And knowing that you had barbed wires around you and you were really being interned.